Welcome in Sydney. We can see here our plane, a Boeing 777-300 extended range. On the flight deck, our systems are just initializing, so we are right at the beginning of this flight. This flight is British Airways flight 16 that leads from Sydney to London Heathrow with an intermediate stop at Singapore. So it's a very long flight. Altogether we will spend around 23 hours. So this is our beautiful British Airways plane at the gate in Sydney Kingsford Smith Airport. Catering is in progress. Meanwhile, we are checking our systems here, the overhead panel. And now let us have a look to our flight plan, to the route chart. This will go from Kingsford Smith Airport in Sydney to Changi Airport in Singapore. The distance will be around 3,500 miles. Will lead us above Australia and then into Indonesian airspace before landing in Singapore around 7.5 hours later. Sometime later we are cleared to start our engines. The preparation is finished now. Starting number 2. Starting number 1.
Please set parking brakes. Waiting your confirmation for a good engine start.
Takeoff settings are entered in the CDU. So we can set the trim. APU off.
Ground, Qantas 550, Quebec, ready to taxi, IFR. Qantas 550, taxi to and hold short of runway 34, left, via taxiway to get November 10,
It's dark outside now because it's evening in Sydney.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
Unlocking gear.
Sydney ground, 4902, taxi. 4902, taxi to Gate Delta 33, taxiway uniform 1, Lima, Bravo, Kilo, Charlie, Bravo 4. Taxiing to Gate Delta 33, using taxiway uniform 1, Lima, Bravo, Kilo, Charlie, Bravo 4, 4902.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed. Left is clear, right is clear.
Qantas 550, hold position, touching the Boeing on the taxiway. Hold position, Qantas 550.
Here comes the B4 taxi checklist, and the ice is not required in Sydney. Recall is checked. Flight controls are checked and cargo grouping is clear. Flaps 5 as calculated. Before takeoff checklist completed. So we are ready for taxi. We have air traffic control in Sydney. Live controller there. We will lead us to our land runway 16 right. We're cleared for taxi now, so let's have a look onto the airport chart. We are leaving Sydney via runway 16 right. It's on the top of this chart, and here we can see our gate number 10 encircled in orange, and we are going to taxi via taxiway Alpha to runway 16 right.
Roger, Qantas 550. Qantas 550, hold position, touch the Boeing on the taxiway. Qantas 550, continue taxi.
We are cleared to line up after incoming traffic. Landing lights on. Traffic has vacated our runway. So, speedbird 16 cleared for takeoff runway 16 right. Airspeed alive.
80 knots.
V1.
Rotate. V2. Miles in a rate of climb.
Gear up. Autopilot on. Flaps 1. So we're clear to change frequency. No further ATC available, so we change to Unicom. It's dark. Center stand. Flaps up. So let's have a look onto the departure chart. We are leaving Sydney to the south on the Group 1 departure via transition Richmond, that is in the north, and will bring us in our intended direction. Initial clearance is 5,000 feet that we will reach soon, and from there so we are dialing in our planned flight level of flight level 340. After takeoff checklist, landing gear up, flaps up, landing gear after takeoff checklist completed. So for some reason that I cannot explain, my recording is missing the audio until touchdown. I cannot explain it. So we are here at the arrival. It's the Ugebo 1 Alpha arrival for runway 0 to center, and we are closing in for the final approach. You can see it on the navigation display. Flaps have set to 5 now, reducing speed to 190 knots. Our plane has not captured the glide slope as the localizer came later as the glide slope, and so I've disconnected the autopilot to do a manual landing. What's quite nice to see here are the reflections of the landing lights, because it's a little bit foggy in Singapore. Approach not quite stable, but we'll do it nevertheless. We are on the glide slope again. Runway ahead. And soon we will have sound again. Here we are. Using speed. We can go down the runway almost all the way, because our gate will be near the end of runway 0 to center. I'm in no hurry to put the brakes, auto brake off. So we are vacating to the left. Welcome to Singapore. Our gate will be Delta 40, and it is just ahead of the exit we just took from runway 02 center. We're switching off the clock for flight time. This taxiway is extremely easy, always straight ahead. Will save us some rubber tire. Some tire rubber. Visual guidance system is alive. It will guide us into the gate. Stop. Set parking brake. So let's shut down the engines. APU is running. Jetway. Our passengers will deboard the plane and re-enter it in about an hour or half an hour, so we are able to clean the cabin and set it up for our second leg from Singapore to London Heathrow. Setting the hydraulic panel. External power on, so we may switch off the APU. The jetway is present. So we may open the door. There's one jetway to door 1 left. So parking. We switch off the weather radar. Brake will be released, and so shutdown checklist completed. So this crew may leave the airplane.
Boarding requested.
There will be a second crew available for the second leg from Singapore to London Heathrow, because this will take us more than 13 hours. In reality, I will do the second leg by myself, but in normal life it would be as I just said. So this airplane will be secured until it may be taken over by the second crew. Cargo doors are opened.
Passengers to boarding side.
Catering vehicles are arriving to provide us with supplies for the second leg of our journey. Let's open the doors for them. And we are still in the session when we had landed. The Adiru is resynchronized and we can set up the second route. We're here at Singapore Changi Airport at gate Delta 40. So was init completed. And we'll re-engage the data link. And let's have a look onto our flight plan. We can see here this flight plan for flight 16, British Airways 16 with 6 265 passengers, a cargo of around 28 tons. So we have a payload of around 55 tons and an underload of only 805 kilograms. So we are loaded to the limit of what our plane can carry, because we need an amount of around more than 113 tons of fuel for our flight that will take around 13 hours and 40 minutes. After refueling, we will have around 129 tons of fuel in our tanks.
Your airplane fuel system to set the desired fuel quantity.
The fuel truck is attached to the fuel tank.
Use your airplane fuel system to set the desired fuel quantity.
This is how refueling in the PMDG 777 is working. 128.6 tons in the tank. Setting up the EFB with our required charts.
Your crew has boarded. Passengers boarding starting.
We are leaving via the Aroso 3 Echo. Departure from runway 02 left. Fuel truck is leaving and light rain has started. Let's calculate the performance data for our departure. Next. Input for the weight data. Consumption of fuel has to be entered manually into the EFB. Figures are taken from the flight plan. The condition is wet, as we have just seen. A light wind from the north, 25 degrees centigrade. And QNH 1008. I should have known that we are too heavy for takeoff 1. Now it's working. We can transfer these figures into the CDU. Flaps 15, center of gravity 23%. Here the takeoff data. Takeoff is already selected and we assume a temperature of 36 degrees to reach some thrust reduction. Rotation speed is as calculated and V1 slightly reduced due to the wet surface of the runway. And here we are. Ready to do our first checklist, and here I experience a difference because the simulator has not restarted, so we are still as in the session as we have arrived, and well, some of these checklists, it is a little different. So I have to reset the checklist. Reset all, and we are starting. This would be the situation when starting the simulator, and before, this is the pre-flight checklist. Here we have the before start checklist, but we are not ready for it now. The last pallet is loaded into our aircraft, so boarding will be finished in a couple of minutes. Let's start the APU, so we will have electricity and bleed air for starting the engines. Boarding is almost completed. Closing the doors. All exits are armed. Starting the packs. Electricity is now provided by the APU. And the ground crew may disconnect air conditioning and ground power. Wheel chocks cannot be disconnected because we still have to set up the hydraulic panel. So here we have the hydraulic panel. Right switch has already activated. Second. Third hydraulic circuit. Hydraulic panel set. And we have pressure on the parking brake, so locks can switch off, flight deck door, and we can do the before start checklist. Flight deck door is locked. MCP V2 138, heading 23 degrees, altitude 5000. The takeoff speeds have been set. Trimming has to be set to 6.5 as calculated. So here we are, taxi and takeoff briefing is completed, beacon on. So ready for pushback, requesting pushback.
Release parking brakes, please. Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will.
We have spent around some minutes more than 1 hour at the gate and are now ready to start the engines, beginning with number 2.
Set parking brakes. Waiting your confirmation for a good engine start.
Cockpit to ground. We have a good engine start. You can disconnect.
Unlocking gear. Tow truck disconnected. Bypass pin removed. Left is clear, right is clear.
Checking the flight controls. Elevator. The rudder. Speed brakes. We set the flaps to 15 as calculated. Before taxi checklist, recall says out of throttle discharge. And the message is off. Flight controls are checked. Ground equipment is clear. The ice was not required. Flaps are set to 15, so also the takeoff checklist is completed and we are ready for taxi to our runway 02 left.
Monitor radar display. Go around. Wind shear ahead. Wind shear ahead. Wind shear ahead.
We have to taxi around the terminal to the left, to the western side of the airport. So it's a longer taxiway ahead of us. We are cleared for lining up runway 202 left. Landing lights on. And also the strobes. Nice immersion. These foggy conditions. Well, not fog, it's more mist. Speedbird 16, cleared for takeoff, runway 02 left. Set the clock. Engines in the ICAS display. Toga. Thrust set. Check it. Gear up. We are reaching our first cleared altitude of 3,000 feet. We are cleared for flight level 160. Flaps 10. Flaps 5, yeah. Autopilot on. Set the heading, the direction of our flight. Flaps 1. Flaps up. Let's have a look onto the route chart from Singapore to London Heathrow. It will last around 13 hours and 40 minutes. The route will avoid Iran and Ukraine, but will cross Afghanistan, as is done regularly nowadays. Regular arrival will be around 9 o'clock local time in Heathrow, so we will arrive in daylight. At 10,000 feet we switch off the landing lights and the logo light. And our speed will rise. We will accelerate to 320 knots. Point Mach 0.83. Seatbelts are off, so service may begin. A very good morning. We are here after 12 more than 12 hours in our flight. Are crossing or have crossed the border to Germany, coming from Austria, and I had a good night, hoping my passengers also had this. Normally this flight would have arrived at 4:25, so 3 hours ago, and we still have 1.5 hours to fly. So this delay was intentionally, because first thing I would have to get up very early in the morning to do this flight in real time, and I would have to do that in Sydney too, around 5:30. So shift this 3 to 4 hours, and things become much more comfortable. That's the freedom I have as a simulator pilot, not an airline pilot. On the navigation display we can see we are around 35 miles out of Heathrow Airport and 20 miles in front of Lamborn, and we are flying the Lamborn 1 X-ray arrival for runway 27 left. Let's have a look onto the chart. Here we are. So you see the left turn going from Lamborn via Hilly to Biggin, where we shall arrive at flight level 70 with a maximum 220 knots. After Biggin, we'll navigate according to this chart on an S-curve that will lead us to the final approach for runway 27 left. flaps 5, this final curve into the final approach proves to be quite tight, so we have to get the aircraft slow enough. Now with flaps 15, flaps 20, and the gear should come down soon. And we've already captured the glide slope, but not yet the localizer. That sometimes isn't. It's a situation that may lead to overshooting the glide slope. Gear down. But here it's working.
Radio altimeter.
About 2,500 feet. A little too fast. Slow down and the speed brakes. Flaps 25. Speed brakes armed. Flaps 30. And landing checklist, speed brakes are armed, gear is down, and flaps are set to 30. Checklist completed. Here an ILS proves to be very helpful because
1,000.
the runway is not visible in the moment. That is no problem. Now the runway comes inside.
500.
Set off the autopilot.
Decide.
Continue. Right side.
100.
We have a Concorde.
50. 30. 20. 10.
Little bumpy landing. Also on Welcome to London Heathrow. We have landed after 13 hours and around 40 minutes, nearly exactly as planned. We arrive at our destination gate 563 in Heathrow Airport. And we have successfully come to the end of this 13 hours flight, and in total, together with the flight from Sydney, these are around 23 hours of simulator time and of flight time, together with this 1.5 hour stay in Singapore. We are here in London Heathrow, and what is a little puzzling for me, the jetways are missing. Parking brake set. APU is running, we can shut down the engines. With the jetways missing, I tried to restart GSX, and resulting in the situation that GSX ceased and is no longer available. So at the end of this flight, we have to use the equipment coming with PMDG. There's one advantage: the PMDG stairs and vehicles are opening the doors by themselves. So also this is some kind of new experience. Sometimes I use some of these vehicles, for example, for the laboratory, sometimes the cabin cleaning, but I've never used before the stairs and the loaders. Shutdown checklist. Switch fuel pumps off and we'll set the hydraulic panel. Hydraulic panel set, fuel pumps off, flaps up, parking brake released, and weather radar off. Shutdown checklist completed. Radio off, emergency lights off, and packs off. Secure checklist completed. Here's the result of our flight in the data link. Flight time 13 hours and 37 minutes. Block time 14 hours and 7. The estimated flight time was 13 hours and 40 minutes, so the planning was quite accurate. It's time to say goodbye after this long flight.